So thank you for coming. My name is Henrique. Sounds like Henrique Iglesias, so you never forget about. I'm Portuguese, born in Brazil, but have been living and working in London for the past 5 years. So today I will talk about user interface, most React. It's not working. So some of the companies I have been most working are startups. For the past 3 years and a half, almost 4 years, they vary from retail to financial to banking to big data, fintech, or transport. And most of them, not of course the big companies, but I really like to engage with early stage startups. So they're pretty much trying to get their product out, and they are small teams. Sometimes I am the first one to be hired. It's a very product mindset, and their needs are pretty much the same. It doesn't matter which industry they are. So they want to scale very easy. They want to move fast. But also they want to keep the visual consistency, and they really want to use the latest tech stack because it helps with hiring and attracting talent. And the challenges are always the same as well. So, okay, we want to reuse as much as code as possible. We want to share code between our apps, and even when they are starting, they had an MVP, so there is some legacy code that you have to maintain. For example, different bundle systems or different approaches for CSS. Some people using SAS less. And for the past 7 years, I have been working a lot with JavaScript, and starting with the backbone. Then I moved to Ember.js. That was a very slow and painful process. Angular 2. The only good thing about Angular for me is the TypeScript. And using SAS or less, I have tried as well all the naming conventions like BEM, Sweet or functional CSS. And I guess is our quest as developers. We try to find a simple solution, not in a way that is easy. So simple doesn't mean less powerful or easy. And I really like this picture from Pablo Picasso. We see a lot of his work, the final work, the abstract, and then we forget that there was like a process between, and so to achieve the simplicity and the abstraction, you need to go through a whole process. It's a lot of learning and failure. And then thinking always about the UI, right? It's basically, it's a markup, styling and interaction. So let's say a button. And that's, for example, one toggle switch, right? We have the markup, HTML, we have the styling, and we have the interaction. So we want to click and toggle on and off. So when I started with React, it's kind of made a lot of sense, because you have the markup, you have the styling, and you have the interaction happen in the same place. So it was a bit kind of shift of mindset, but while you are building components and building your app, and start to make a lot of sense. So React brought this component-driven approach. So Facebook has 2024 components, something like that, and they use React for all kind of products. And the idea is basically your component, or it's like a Lego, right? So he's just receiving props. He doesn't state usually you don't want to handle like a data in the state. It's just for UI. For example, you have a toggle state where you say on and off, and there is no side effects, so you can move around your components in the app, and that should work fine. One of the things I'm working on, working for a retail startup where you can go there and create your own t-shirt or hoodie or mug. Then you can customize and you can create a campaign and sell online. So this is just a profit calculator that you can play around and have an idea from the base cost how much profit and money you can make. And you can see all the components, headline, text, help button, tooltip. They are the small blocks we can use everywhere. And then we put together, we compose those like big components with them. And again, they only receive a prop, and usually they send it back. Whatever interaction happened, they send you that information. In this case, the calculator is going to change the units sold when you are moving the slide, right? So having this in mind, like the background, the needs, and the context, small teams, little resource people. I have this approach. I always try to build this React UI model that's going to be shared to all apps, and kind of works like a foundation in the bottom, right? This is published to a private NPM model. They can open source if the company really wants, and then you have the marketing site, the static blog, KPMI, dashboard, whatever you are building on top, you're all like sharing the same model. And that is, we start every place I go like and talk about CSS, things get really hot in the room. You know, there is loads of different opinions. Some people like Sass, some people don't like CSS models. Most of people hate inline styles, and you get like this. I have the feeling like we're talking about CSS, like a panda is going to, come to the room and start to break everything. And I like this. James Kyle was one of the co-creators of Babel.js. He's basically saying the biggest problem when we discuss CSS is like there is many ways to use CSS, and they're not the same. So you might be creating like a WordPress blog or a landing page, or then you have like a single page app, and you need to understand what is the case, and then go to see the tools available. And I think as JavaScript developers, we love CSS. I love CSS. I like to write CSS. I also love Flexbox. I still get in we are like in 2017, and I still get in people like saying, no, Flexbox is not good, it's not supported, and then what are you talking about? We can get like, for example, this is a very simple example that I have this keywords component where pretty much I have a wrapper, it's just a flex, and then I have two divs inside. One is the keywords, and then the second one is the inputs, right? The input, it just say flex1, so he's going to fit inside the wrapper. And well, whenever we have new components added to the keywords, the browser does everything for you. So for me, it's really nice. It's only CSS, and there is no need to JavaScript to do this. So yes, embrace Flexbox for layout, and it's very powerful. And coming back like to CSS, I really like it and believe things should be isolated. No building step, what it means, I really don't want to set up a Webpack or Go or Grunt have like, to maintain this. Looks like CSS, and it's easy to share. What I mean is, if you're creating this React UI model, you don't have to worry about share the CSS as well, because then the app that's going to be consuming that model needs to have exactly the same configuration that you are having. So if you are doing like a Webpack, and then you have a different app that's using Go, so you need to tell the developer, okay, you need to set up a post CSS and make sure that they look like similar. And that's why the kind of latest stack I have been using is React, Jest, and styled components. I like this idea about you move fast and you simplify things. I think in our work, what we do daily, coding is the less of the problems. I think take the decision of choose a tool A and B, and is the bigger part of our work. And that's kind of why I like styled components. Some people don't like template literals. Is basically what styled component does. There is options like Fella.js, Glamour.js, so you can write styles as JavaScript objects if you don't like template literals. So my point is there is at least 2 or 3 good options for like anything you don't like. And what I like about styled components is the composition aspect. So I have, for example, a box that is a flex, and then I can just create a raw component and say, hey, styled from the main box, but to change the direction. And that's a magic thing that you see like styled.div happen. This is default from JavaScript ES6. It's just called tagged template literals. Basically, the idea is you can pass a function to the template, and then you can parse it in that function and do whatever you want, and then return. So this is what styled components is doing in the background. So one of the latest additions I added to my stack was Randa. Randa is a functional programming style library. There is kind of good definition. So it's a library designed with functional programming in mind. It's easy to compose or pipeline functions. And also doesn't mutate the data, so it always returns a pure function. What this means is this kind of change, this bringing the whole declarative programming, which is different from the imperative programming. So imperative programming is the one that most of universities and places and my background, computer science, we come from, like is no if-else statements, loops. It's basically you're telling the computer, the programmer, exactly how he have to run. While declarative programming is you tell what the computer, the programmer wants, and then the computer have to sort it out. And this is just a very basic example. For example, we have these prop types from React, which is expecting an array of options. Then you have to declare everything. And then in declarative programming, you just say, hey, just take the values from this object. So it's, I think that the most challenging part of functional programming and declarative is having the right mindset while you are programming. That's a very simple case for, is a switch case statement, right? where I'm using like a condition and then equals and always, so there is 3 functions, and then basically they give you the same result, but the declarative programming, the random one, is faster because it doesn't mutate the data. Random.js uses as much as possible the native JavaScript implementation, but whenever there is a flaw in the native, so Randa does like optimizations to make sure that they run faster. So usually like functions like a map, read a filter, or for each in Randa are faster than the native JavaScript. And so what it means to components, right? I think it means it can bring us this functional styling programming to our workflow, reinforces immutability, and there is no side effects on the rest of the components. For styled components, that's a very easy case where you basically you can get the props and then you do get the props, flex, or you fall back to the default one. In declarative programming, we use this prop or function that pretty much does the same, but again, it's a different thinking and mindset. There's a quick, very basic example from Redux, where you usually return an object and you get from that state, and then you can just use pick those objects from those keys, right, from this object. And you can go crazy if you want to write your own React app with functional programming. You can. This example is the checkout form is composed by stateless, because React you can write pure components that are only functions, so it's possible to do that. So you can compose it just for a component called root, that's like a container wrapper, then there's a form, there's a fields, then you can map the fields and from the properties, which is an array. And this is just doing kind of composition from left to right, but you can do right to left as well. So have a look at the website. There is the documentation is very good. There is a lot of resources around why Randa, why someone created that. There's a nice series of blog posts around thinking in Randa, and then it's like 8 or 9 posts that give like very practical examples, and then you can find the examples with React and Redux as well. One part of usually I don't like to talk about animation because I think it's a very complex subject, but people always ask me about what I'm using. I'm mostly using CSS keyframes. I believe for most of the cases, like daily needs, CSS keyframes works really well. So this is a very basic example like this. There is this they call a goosey effect that you can achieve with SVG and keyframes. And then styled components give you this keyframes helper that basically does the same thing as the CSS. And is working very well for the past projects. I work very closely with the designers and UX, so they kind of, because the CSS, they can help with the animation, they can like tweak the animation. I think that's very important. However, it doesn't solve all the problems in animation, so of course if you want something very powerful. If you want to use springs or physics, then you have to use React Emotion or any other JavaScript library. But it's probably one case every, I don't know, 10. So yeah, CSS like keyframes is a good approach. And then unit testing. I have been using Jest from Facebook. Chris Boyer did a great work, basically rewriting the library, and fits very well with all the React workflow. There is this snapshot testing that basically generates, the first time you run the test, it generates a file that you need to commit and save to the repo. And the idea is whenever there is a change on the component, the test is going to fail. And so I had this question yesterday. Someone, well, but if I build the component wrong, then it's going to generate a wrong snapshot. Yes, of course. The idea is, or either the test run found a bug, or someone changed something intentionally, then you have to update the snapshot. For the case you changed the title, or even you changed the CSS and the class name changed. So it was a like intentional change. And I think it's important, like they are not a replacement, they are just a complement. And the most important bit as well is you have to make sure in the code review, snapshots, people are reviewing the snapshots as well. And for me, the snapshots are very useful because, again, working closely with UX and designer, we give the snapshot to the UX to review. They can check if it's really accessible. They can maybe make suggestions and make the component more accessible. So I found that the whole snapshot very, very useful. So there's, I think the good practices, I would call like the minimum practices, good practices, you could have is write unit tests, not for the components, checking the behavior, and making sure you are using the S-lint. I like the Airbnb one, but I think it's too opinionated. What you can do is you can create your own rule and extend it from Airbnb, and then you change it whatever you and your team like. Also, the Git pre-commit hooks are very useful. So they basically is just a native function from Git where you can run a command every time someone commits or push to Orange. So you can run all tests locally, and then if they fail, you can't really commit that code. And it's finally automated code review. There is something in the end. So the people are always asking me how about component structure. One thing I learned is keep it flat as possible. If the component is too big, then it's a feature. And I do the same thing with Redux. I don't use the flat, actions, store the flat structure. I like it to organize by feature, and that's good because you can have developers working in different features, and the code review is much easier. So usually I have an entry point index. Then this dot stories is a storybook which it generates kind of a visual, like a guideline, a catalog of our components. Then I have types. If you're using like Flow or TypeScript, and that's animations, just moving, making sure the main component is not too big. And again, like storybook, that's how it looks like. You have like in the sidebar with other components, and then you can do like variations of the components, and that's pretty much what we use it like internally. In the code review, so we can share the link we can deploy this statically to Netlify or whatever you want, and then we share internally, and then the people can test the component. Finally, tooling. There is loads of options around tooling. Circle CI, Code Climate, Sentry, CodeShip, Rollbar, and Sentry, they do like error tracking. Sentry JavaScript library is very good, it plays really well with React. So whenever there's a exception in your code, then you can log and you can just see, if something broken in your code. Circle CI and CodeShip or continuous integration. And Code Climate is an automated review. So it does something nice every time you create a pull request. It's going to analyze your code and say, hey, there is duplications everywhere. What are you going to do? Then you can basically go each one and say, oh, this is invalid, you're wrong. This I want to fix. Then you can add a comment. We are going to fix later, and then in the end you approve the build. And that's a very good tool. I kind of use and rely a lot, because when you are in startups, we want to move fast. We do like a lot of trade-offs. We don't try to do like too much abstraction in the beginning, and then while we are building and we are seeing, hey, we are pretty much doing the same thing as this component, so let's break it down and let's let's organize better the code. So finally, wrap up. This is not specifically for what we do, but Jason Fried is one of the founders of Basecamp. Everything those guys write and do are very good. And I see like a lot of people are like stuck in the same place or trying to find the best solution. There is no best solution. The best solution is the one that works for you and for your company and for your team at that time. There's a new library every day. They solve very specific problems. You don't have all the problems people do. So be kind of wise in the decision you are bringing to the team. The trade-offs, like I said, are important. It's important to understand and do trade-offs now in order to deliver fast tomorrow. Make sure like the team is happy and the stakeholders are aware of what's going on and why we are not starting with tests, for example. And I think very important for me is the DX is developer experience. Is basically your experience or enjoyment while you are coding. It's very important. So you want to make sure everyone in your team is really happy with the tech stack. You are happy. You go to work in the next day, or you are reviewing, doing like a code review, I don't know, late tonight, and you are like happy with the technology that you are working on. That's it. Thank you. So any questions? Yes.
Well, at the beginning you said that Lambda is using functions like for each and map to be faster, and I think it's like 4 times slower in browsers than using classical for loops.
Yeah, I was based on like a benchmark I saw a while ago, but yeah, it's possible. The browsers and they keep, mainly like Chrome, they keep improving the engine.
And you mentioned Flex there, and if the Flex is not supported by the browser, is there some kind of automatic polyfilling, or how is it done?
Yeah, so if you can, like standard components are most of the JavaScript styling libraries. They work with the auto prefixer. The support is pretty good. The problem with Flex or some of the There is a kind of inconsistency between browsers when you are using the shorthand version, mainly around the IE. But I haven't had like a problem for at least like a few years in Flex, something that was not supported. Of course, most of the products I have been working or supporting like IE 10, 11, in like yes plus. And even in banks, I work in RBS, Royal Bank of Scotland. Even banks were pushing all kind of customers and everyone in IT to use the latest browser. So there wasn't much legacy like all the browsers in the UK right now. Yeah, so we do like this project I'm working now. We have users in Asia, like Vietnam and very small like cities, and then we are using Flexbox Careful. We are using the support CSS, right? And then making sure like whenever you use a Flex or anything that's new, we put inside it that support. And then if there is no support, then we have the fallback.